Wrestling fans these days, they're spoiled. Yeah, that's right, yeah, I'm talking about you. I tell you, back in my day we had to save up a month's worth of pocket money, or get a job working down the mine to even be able to afford to rent a 6-month-old WWE pay-per-view for a week from local video store. By heck, kids these days, your Vape Station 316s, get off them, you daft pillocks. Nowadays, there are a plethora of streaming services that allow us to watch basically any moment from wrestling history instantly and whenever we bloody well feel like it. Well, basically any moment from wrestling history, that is, because even though it seems like every recorded headlock and hip toss is on tape somewhere, there are still some pieces of wrestling media that we cannot see, and perhaps we never will. This new series on Lost Wrestling Media will be exploring those rare entities that are simply not available anywhere, looking at what they are and just why fans cannot see nor watch them. We start with one move, and crucially, the reaction to that move that so shocked WWE management as well as their top star that it caused a planned headline feud to be cancelled. Fans have often wondered why Jake the Snake Roberts and Hulk Hogan never worked a major program with one another in the 80s when both were riding high in WWE. I mean, figuratively, not tooting on the root. Roberts was one of the top heels of the day, a memorable character that had a personality altogether different from anyone else on the roster. The Snake was calm, calculated, yet undeniably evil. He spoke in whispers instead of shouting and shrieking, and used psychological warfare to erode the minds of his opponent before dropping them with a deadly DDT.
And then you had Hulk Hogan, brother. He was a real American hero, dude. He had 24-inch pythons, Jack, and he was gonna smash you with them for all the little Hulkamaniacs. Wait their vitamins and said their prayers, brother.
Yep. The two couldn't have been further apart in their role or approach, and on the surface at least, they seemed made for each other. Who wouldn't have wanted to see the all-American hero take on and conquer that slithering scumbag? Well, WWE matchmakers certainly wanted to see it, figuring the bout would be quite the draw on the road. The Hogan formula was beginning to be established by this point in 1986, as the WWE Champion would main event shows in title matches against the top villains of the day, whether they be giants like Kamala or King Kong Bundy, or shredded lunatics like Paul Orndorff and Randy Savage. On the last house show of the year, December 30th, at the Civic Center in Providence, Rhode Island, Hogan wrestled Roberts for the first time, beating him by countout. The pair would have two further singles matches, a return bout at the Providence Civic Center on January 29th, 1987, and one at the Winnipeg Arena in Winnipeg, Canada on February 28th, both of which were won by Hogan via pinfall. So that was it for Jake and Hulk. 3 measly single matches in a local market. What gives? Well, rumour has it that the matchup was meant to tour nationwide, but after the response to a segment shot for television, those plans were scrapped. On the 2005 Jake Roberts Pick Your Poison WWE DVD bio, the Snake references his potential run with Hogan, and how it all really began and ended when the Hulkster stopped by the Snake Pit for a chat. While Jake Roberts was by and large the master of his own downfall in the professional wrestling business, squandering his potential as he fought serious substance abuse issues, he also had some pretty rotten luck compounding things further. A main event house show run with Hogan was the spot that every WWE superstar wanted back then, as that is where the real money was made. A few weeks or months with your name on the marquee next to Hogan could probably help you buy a house, or perhaps a boat. Perhaps the money, could even help you afford a houseboat. However, Roberts never got that run outside the aforementioned 3 matches through no real fault of his own. Hogan was a guest on Jake's Snake Pit, the interview show that aired on Wrestling Challenge and Superstars between late 1986 and the summer of '87 several times. On one of those occasions, Roberts is reported to have hit Hogan with a DDT, which was the kickstart for their rivalry and planned series of matches. However, according to Jake, after he performed the move, the crowd didn't boo him out of the building. On the contrary, they cheered him on, chanting those 3 magic letters after Hogan dropped. In the good old days of cheering the goodies and booing the baddies and hot dog skinned muscle men posing, that wasn't gonna fly, especially when Vince McMahon is watching from behind the curtain. Roberts said that when he got back from the segment, he had a brief conversation with the boss that basically let him know he wasn't going to put his golden goose in a compromising position. That meant not only not running with Hogan versus Jake Roberts at live events, but also that the footage of this mythical DDT would never air. When exactly the DDT happened is unknown. Hogan was first a guest on the Snake Pit on an episode of Wrestling Challenge that aired on October 12th, 1986. During it, Roberts asks Hogan if he would turn his back on anyone he is afraid of. Hogan says no, turns his back, and walks away. Could this have been the episode? Was there more left on the cutting room floor? Did Jake blindside Hulk as his back was turned to hit the DDT? A month and a half later, Hogan returned to the Snake Pit on the November 23rd episode of Wrestling Challenge. This time, the two discussed their respective pythons, Hulk's bulging biceps and Jake's serpentine friends. What's interesting about this Snake Pit is that it correlates with Jake's recollection of events, as he had previously mentioned the Python talk when referencing the unseen DDT. Also, the segment appears to end rather abruptly, cutting to black at an arbitrary point. This segment also aired before the first match in Providence, so that could have been timed to coincide with it. The third and final time was, well, it was a time that may or may not have happened at all. On December 10th, 1986, WWE taped 4 episodes of Wrestling Challenge to be broadcast on December 21st and 28th, as well as January 4th and January 11th. Of the 4 episodes, only the January 4th edition doesn't feature a Snake Pit segment. This has led some to speculate that the DDT would have actually aired on that date had Vince McMahon not been spooked by the crowd reaction. There has been some speculation that those in the local Providence and Winnipeg markets were shown the footage of the DDT, but if that's the case, nobody had their VCR set up at the time and the footage hasn't seen the light of day. Look through YouTube comments and forums and you'll see people swear that they saw it when they were younger, and then again, some people are totally convinced they saw Shazam starring Sinbad, a movie that doesn't actually exist. Idiots. There are clips of one of the Hogan-Roberts matches out there, and Jake did cut a promo during the January 10th, 1987 edition of Superstars of Wrestling, where he built up his upcoming match with Terrible Terry, while another promo that aired on one of WWE's Canadian broadcasts referenced the Snake Pit incident. At this point, there's really no reason for WWE not to release the footage of the Snake Pit incident. But then again, I mean, why would they? Hulk Hogan is a peripheral figure these days, brought in here and there for the odd thing, while Jake is currently signed to All Elite Wrestling, WWE's closest competition. If WWE were ever going to release the footage, should it still exist in some form or fashion, it would likely be as a hidden gem on the network. But WWE ceased bothering with those a while ago too. The bastards. As for Hogan's version of the events, when asked about the next feud with Roberts, he has instead blamed their apparent lack of in-ring chemistry together and claimed that the few times they did lock up, it was like a funeral in the arena. Hulk says that he and his opponent both tried to make it work, but it just didn't, and that is why WWE put the brakes on it. Whichever version of events you believe, I think I speak for everyone when I say it would be really interesting after so much time to finally see that DDT from the Snake Pit. Jake's done thousands of them over his long and illustrious career, but none of them have gotten fans in a tizzy quite like the one we may never get to witness.